Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have to say, I am very, very happy, very privileged, very honored to have Mr. Larry Sharp on today.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me on. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to have this conversation.
Believe me, it's my honor, and I thank you. Now, you're a libertarian. I know that's kind of difficult, I guess, in these times. Well, it's been for years. It's either Democrat or Republican.
Yes.
I tend to look at different views, so I want to have a discussion about that. Before we get into it, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
My name is Larry Sharp, as you probably know. You can just Google Larry Sharp. I'm all over the place. I've been on a lot of different podcasts. Some of the more popular ones, probably Joe Rogan, Glenn Beck, Dave Rubin, Tim Cast. A couple of them that's a bit more popular that people may have heard of. Allison Moreau. So a couple like that. Kim Iverson. I don't know if any of your viewers also watch those. But I'm born and raised in New York City. I am a product of adoption. My birth parents gave me up for adoption. I was adopted by immigrant mom and American father. They then divorced. I then was raised by my immigrant mother and then another man who I call my father, who taught me how to be a man. He died when I was 12. Very tough for me as a lost kid, having no positive male role models. I joined the Marine Corps at 17, trying to find those positive male role models. I didn't know it then, obviously, right? Looking back, I'm in my 50s now. So looking back then, it was very obvious that I was searching for positive male role models. Back then, I just thought, I'm going to be a tough guy. That's what I thought back then. But anyway, that's what 17-year-olds think, I guess. So I joined the Marine Corps there. When I left, my father's death and me leaving was too much for my mom. And my mom eventually just couldn't handle it. And she became addicted to drugs. Initially legal drugs, then eventually illegal drugs. She was a convicted felon by the time I'd come back. And I pulled her out of jail and had to reboot her life. And that was very hard. And if you've ever had an addict in your life, you know how hard it is, right? Addicts choose the substance over you, and that hurts. And when you're a youngster, particularly, when you're older, you're sometimes able to see better and to feel better about it and to be more zen about it, maybe even. But when you're young, that just hurts. You don't get it. It just hurts. So that was very hurtful for me, obviously. So when I came back, I tried to get her up and running. I gave her the support structure she needed to get up and running, but I hated the fact that she couldn't get a good job. And again, if you've ever had a felon in your life, you know that it can be very hard for felons to get jobs. It can be very challenging for them to do so. They often lie on their resumes and are worried about getting caught and background checks and such. And I hated the fact that that was happening to my mom. So years later, as I saw this happening to her, I noticed that the people who were supporting her were always people who are entrepreneurs. She couldn't get her a more office job, so she either got a job at as a server at a local diner or at a gas station, or somebody, a local guy or gal who ran something gave her the second chance that she needed. It made me realize the value of entrepreneurs and the entrepreneur class in America, how they're the ones who give people second chances and build things locally. But more than that, I then realized how upset I was about her being a hostage in any job she had. She could never stand up for herself, ask for a raise. She was scared. She got fired. There's no job for her. So she's, a hostage. I hated it. So I thought, okay, how can I fix this? So I said, okay, we're going to start a business. And we started a business. I said, we're going to buy a truck, the largest one we can buy in New York State that doesn't require a CDL. And I think back then it was a 24-foot truck. I don't know if that's still true. This was the 90s. But I think that's what it was. It probably still is now. So we bought whatever was the biggest one. I think it was a 24-footer, I think. And we bought that truck and said, we're going to start a business, me, her, and she had remarried, and my stepdad. And I said, we'll do it, but only one condition. And they said, what? I said, my mom is 100% owner. And they went, what? I said, that's it. I will not do this. I'm out unless my mom is 100% owner. And they were like, why? I said, if she's 100% owner, no one can fire her. No hostage anymore. My mom is no longer a hostage. And they were like, okay, deal, fine, yes. We ran that business for a couple of years. My stepdad had a heart attack. He survived, but it put him out of commission for about 6 months to nine months. So I stayed longer because he physically was out of action for a while. We got that business up and running. I then left. They ran that business until they retired. And then my mom had to leave New York after that because it was too expensive in New York. So she couldn't retire here. So my mom actually died in South Carolina years later.
Oh man.
And I already had kids then. So the sad part is she basically lost her grandkids because she couldn't afford to live in New York State. New York State was so oppressive that it breaks up families. All of that made me angry, obviously, right? So that kind of got me going. But I myself started my own business in 2001. That business failed. I sold that one off to get some money back, but didn't make any money really. And then I started another business in 2004, which I still have now, which you can probably see in the background, Neosage. That's my consulting business. I've been doing that for 18 years. That business was doing very well. It crashed in 2009 with all the rest of them. I had to reboot it all in 2010. And since then, I'm back up in action. I still do that daily. That's my when I work, that's my job. I'm a business consultant, trainer, teacher. I've taught at some of the higher graduate levels of Yale and Columbia. I've been an officer in a public company. I've had large banking facilities as my clients. And in 2017, I was going to leave New York State. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I got to go. It's too bad. It's too oppressive. I'm leaving. So I thought I got to go to a city someplace. I thought about going down south. For what I do, I have to have a big city, right? I can't be in a small city for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Charlotte. That's a nice, big, bustling city. It's a hub. I'll do Charlotte. So I went down to North Carolina, saw Charlotte, and realized I could sell my shoebox of a house here in Queens, buy a mansion in North Carolina, right? And still have money left over and have less taxes. I thought, wow, this is amazing. But instead of moving, which so many New Yorkers do, I got angry. And I said, why does my state suck? I have a beautiful state that has so much glory to it, but its government is so oppressive, it makes the state terrible. I said, I'm going to go back. I am going to run for governor in 2018. I'm going to win, and I'm going to change everything. Kyle, that did not work out as planned. So it did not work out. However, when I did it, what I realized was, oh my God, this system's broken. And there's a saying you've heard of, I'm sure, ignorance is bliss. Well, it was, because I didn't realize how bad this system was. And once I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I met people who were literally, they were literally elected politicians, and they hated their constituents. Hated them, just in the way. People who just didn't get judges, who just did not care about the individual rights of citizens. I mean, I met so much of it. I saw corruption everywhere. I thought, this is terrible. I'm gonna do it again. So now I'm at it again. So either I'm stupid or crazy or something, or all a combination, but I'm at it again. And I believe in my heart, and people will disagree with me, but I can't see another answer. The only answer to solving what this country is in for in the future is a third party, right? If you are, you and your brother, you and your girlfriend, boyfriend, you and your mom, your dad, whatever is the person you're with, if you have problems that you just can't seem to solve, you need a third party in there, right? Maybe you and your sister are fighting. Mom's got to come in. You and your dad are fighting. Cousins got to come in. Somebody's got to come in and go, guys, can we have a conversation? You hate each other. You're so mad at each other. Mm-hmm. We are there right now. Left and right is so deep that two things are happening. People have one becoming more extreme or checking out completely. Both are the wrong answer. The right answer is, let's start talking. And all my policies, all my ideas, everything I talk about is about bringing people back together. Now, to be clear, do I think I'm the guy who's going to save the world? I do not. Do I think I can be one of the guys who sets it up to be saved? I do. I think someone's got to start building that groundwork to where there's someone who can step up and go, guys, I can do this. I can fix this. There's a guy or gal out there who can do it. But if we don't set it up for that person, it's never going to happen. And I just don't like where this country's going.
Win or lose, you're trying to start that stepping stone to changing things.
Correct.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'll tell you, I was raised as a Democrat. My dad said that was the answer, that was the party for the working man.
Yep.
But then I got older and I started seeing things a little differently. The last time I voted Democrat, Clinton was in office.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like what I saw. And then, when George Bush came in, I thought he was the answer. Now looking back, I kind of regret it. I did not vote for Obama. I did not think he was the answer. I felt like that really kicked off some division in this country. Like him, hate him, I voted for Trump.
Mhm.
I thought he was the better answer. And I felt like things were starting to change. And the Democrats, of course, fought heavily against it. I don't like what's going on in our government. I've never seen as much division as I see right
Yes.
now. Now,
You're right.
I'm going to tell you, I grew up in the 70s and there was still racism going on. But as
Sure.
the years went by, I started seeing that change and it seemed like we were going in the right direction. And
let me say
boom,
for one
what
second, I
happened?
want to bring this up real fast.
Mhm.
I love what you just said because I've been sharing with my daughters a bunch of 80s movies.
Mhm.
My daughters are younger. I have a daughter who's 12 and one who's 18. And I was saying, look at this movie. There's a black police chief. Look at
Mhm.
this movie. There's a black guy who's this. Look at this movie. There's an Asian guy who's this. Look at this. And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, we were already moving. It was happening. The 70s was a turning point.
Mhm.
You began to see things. Remember the black shows Family Matters, the black shows The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right?
Watched them.
It
I watched
began
all
to
of
change
them.
with shows like The Jeffersons
Mhm.
and shows like Good Times in the 70s, when they actually showed black families just being families, right? That's where we began to see, and it was changed. Prior to the 70s, it was bad. But you start seeing the 70s, it begins. You're totally right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry,
No,
Kyle,
no,
but I just
no,
want
no.
to
Go ahead.
reiterate what you're saying. I was just talking about this. It was happening. 100% yes.
Heck, I remember getting up Saturday morning and one of my favorite shows, and I never missed it, was Fat Albert.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Okay, all black kids, but you know what? We didn't even think of it that way. It was just a cool show. You learned your lessons, and yeah, why can't we be like that? I mean, I grew up watching All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Good
Yep.
Times, all those shows. What's Happening?
What's
Watched
happening?
all-
I forgot. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, I
And-
would even go, you were talking about, you talked to Eric July, right?
Yeah. Well,
Eric
I didn't
July-
talk to him. I just listened to him.
Oh, I know Eric July, right? And Eric July has an idea. He talks about the idea of, instead of trying to turn white things black, just make more black things.
Exactly.
And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's right. And we saw that also in the 80s and 90s. That's when, you found people and comic books began to become more black. You found more black people coming out as comic book characters. For those of you comic book geeks, like Spawn and the Cyborg, these were all black characters that were coming out. They didn't have to make black man black or make Superman black.
Mhm.
Superman was white. It's fine. Let's make new characters. And some of them will be black. Okay, great. They didn't have to change it, which I thought was a much stronger way of doing things. Just again, let's make some new characters. And let's hope that people like these characters. If they're good characters, whether they're black or Hispanic or white, we hope people will like them because they're good characters.
Mhm.
And that's the goal. I completely agree. I saw that happening. And today I struggle to see that, except with someone like Eric July, who actually is doing that with his new comic book called The Ripperverse.
Yes.
He's actually doing that now.
I actually bought ISOM, so I'm waiting for it to come in the mail now.
There we go. Yes, exactly.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, we had characters like Blade and
Blade. Oh, yes.
oh my God, Black Panther.
Black Panther.
And
Yep.
like I said, we liked them because they were cool.
Yep.
There was something
Absolutely.
about them that was just cool. I mean, come on, Blade, all up in leather and sunglasses and fighting vampires.
Absolutely.
Who cares
Yes.
if he was black? I don't care.
The part you bring up now, which I think is funny, is I look back at my voting pattern, right? I also was raised a Democrat. I was raised in the South Bronx.
Mhm.
But if you go back to the earlier days, I get why my parents were Democrats, and your parents probably the same way. If you look at Democrats from the 60s,
Mhm.
they were actually pretty good. 60s Democrats were decent. They were
Mhm.
anti-war. They were about civil liberties. They were against censorship, right? All the things that now they hate, they actually liked then. They were all about it then, right? They were the ones saying, don't censor us. They were the ones saying free love. They were the ones saying all these things. And it was Republicans in the late 70s who were all like, oh, don't say anything, clutching their pearls. They were the ones who were all about censorship.
Mhm.
Man, has that changed. It's almost a total swap. I can see why people have changed parties, because the parties, they're not the same as they were when our parents were growing up. They're not at all. You can just see it. It's very different. But when I was a kid, I grew up and my mom was a hardcore Democrat. She was like, people are evil because they're Republicans. That's how she thought. But when I joined the Marine Corps, for those of you who know about the Marine Corps, it's a very conservative branch of the services. Almost all of my senior leadership, they were almost all conservatives. All Republicans are conservatives. Almost all of them were. Mm-hmm. So the men that I respected, and when I say men, I'm not trying to be sexist. This was the 80s. I joined in 85. This was the 80s, and there were no women in the combat arena, right? They didn't exist. So there only were men where I was. So the men that I respected, the men that I would have died for, the men that I would have done anything for, many of them were conservatives. So I think I began to lean more conservative after I joined the Marine Corps. I began to lean more conservative. But I didn't really like most of the guys. I was a guy like in the 90s where I was thinking Perot will save us, or, Nader is the answer. I was one of those guys. I'm just a rebel. And the funny thing is, I couldn't have told you any of their policies. Like if you'd asked me what their policy was, I don't know. But he's not them, therefore he's better. It's kind of how I thought in my youth. And then when I got older, I was very disenchanted after I saw Nader just get completely destroyed, Perot destroyed. I thought, does it really matter? But I got to tell you, I did buy the Obama. I thought 2008, I thought Obama was going to win. I'm not win. I thought he was going to do something different. I thought it was going to be different. To your point, you thought Bush was going to. I think naturally Americans are optimistic, and we want to believe somebody can save us. Like we want to believe the hero's there. We want to believe it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you wanted to believe Bush was that guy. I wanted to believe Obama was that guy. But within 2 years, I was like, wow, was I wrong? Like, wow. And Obama hurt me the most because the other guys, when they became president, I didn't expect much of them. Mm-hmm. But with Obama, I felt betrayed, right? I didn't feel betrayed by the others. With him, I felt betrayed. And I think when that happened, I just thought, why bother? I was at a point in my life, 2010, 11, where I was like, does any of it matter? I'm just going to run my business and not care about it at all. But then I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012. And Gary Johnson, libertarian, he was a business owner like I was. He was a regular guy like I was. And I thought, maybe this guy makes some sense. Maybe he's the right guy. And that drew me in the Libertarian Party. And from 2012 is when I became libertarian. I supported Gary Johnson in 2012. I supported our New York governor candidate, Michael McDermott, in 2014. I supported Gary Johnson again in 2016. In fact, I ran internally in the primaries to become the VP candidate with Gary Johnson. I lost to Bill Weld by 31 points. But 31 votes, not points, 31 votes. So I did, instead of being a Johnson Sharp ticket, it was a Johnson Weld ticket. I almost got it. So that's when I thought, okay, Gary Johnson loses in 2016. I think maybe I'll leave New York State. Then I said, you know what? I'll pick up the mantle. And that's when I began to run in 2018 and then 2022. If I become popular enough, my ideas will move forward. And that's more important to me, right? So if you want to support or help out, check me out. LarrySharp.com is my website. Larry Sharp on I'm on everything from TikTok to YouTube to Facebook. I'm on Larry Sharp everything. That's Sharp with an E, and the E stands for, I don't know, electable. We'll use that.
Excellent.
Excellent. The E stands for excellent. There we go.
Well, the best to you. What do they say? Break a leg. Don't want to say good.
There we go.
Break a leg. But your time is precious, and I'm so thrilled that you decided to spend some of that time with me and my audience. I just can't thank you enough.
I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for having me. Have a good one.
And also, all of you out there, if you are new to the channel, I hope you enjoyed this content. You know that I usually don't get political, but this was something I think it needed to be done. Please come back. And please hit the subscribe button for sure. And all of you that are regular to the channel, your support means everything to me. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this right now. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network